Hi everyone, thank you for joining today's webinar on Introduction to Facebook. Happy New Year to all of you. My name is Christine Hyman. I'm the Events and Membership Coordinator at Connecting Up, and I'm here with Ben Teo, our Content and Community Coordinator, who will take you through the webinar today on Facebook. First of all, I'd just like to say as well that we are recording this webinar, and we will send the link to the recording as well as the slides to you after the webinar, so you don't have to frantically take notes of every single slide. Without further ado, I'll pass it on to Ben. Ben, you there?
Yep, thanks Christine. So welcome to the webinar. And today's webinar is really going to be about the basics for Facebook for not-for-profits. We are going to be running a webinar later on, which will look at some of more of the intermediate usage of Facebook, but today will really be focused on the basics. So just a little bit more about who I am. I am the Content and Community Coordinator at Connecting Up. So what that means is I do a lot of work with our digital media. So whether that's using social media, content creation, blogging, and all that other stuff, I do a lot of it. So this is, for me, Facebook and social media is the stuff that I'm really passionate about and really keen to see not-for-profits getting on board with it. So today we're just going to look at Facebook, and whenever we've done our social media forums or done webinars and questionnaires about content that not-for-profits would like to hear about, Facebook is definitely up there with the highest demand, especially when it comes to social media. So Facebook and Twitter are the big ones, and so today we're just going to be looking at how to get you started on Facebook. Some of the key things that we want to look at today are first understanding the news feed. So that's understanding what the everyday user sees when they use Facebook. Understanding what the timeline is. That's basically how your Facebook page looks. Looking at different ways to use Facebook as well, and just going through the pros and cons of the different types of online presence that you can have on Facebook, whether that's a page, a group, or a profile. Looking at how to set up a page, and that'll be the bulk of today's webinar. And also, if we have some time, we'll get to some basic hints and tips for increasing your page's activity. A lot of those tips will also be in the follow-up webinar, the intermediate webinar. So if we don't get time to it to do that today, we'll be doing that in the next webinar, but we'll also be putting articles online that you'll be able to search for on our Learning Centre. So the big question, why Facebook? So a little while ago, Facebook announced that they have 1 billion active users globally. So it's definitely the biggest social network out there. And in Australia and New Zealand, it's reached over 53% of the population. That's not just the online population, that's population in general. If we looked at online population, it's around the 60 to 70% penetration. The largest age groups are your 25 to 34s and your younger as well, your 18 to 24s, but we're seeing a lot of growth in older people getting on board with Facebook in particular. And that's pretty cool because it means that it spans quite a decent demographic, especially for not-for-profits. If you're looking for sort of those young change makers who want to get involved with your organisation, but also if you want to tap into the older demographics as well. Everyone's pretty well represented on Facebook these days. If you want to find out more about Facebook statistics, Social Bakers is a really good website, and you can break that down by country. So you could even see how Australia and New Zealand compare against the rest of the world. Okay, so what we're going to do first is have a look at what the everyday user sees when they use Facebook, and it's really important to understand this because once you understand how they're using Facebook, it'll be easier to work out how not-for-profits can integrate themselves into the everyday users' experience of Facebook, and the main way that they'll use Facebook is through the news feed. So this is a basic view of what the news feed looks like. We'll just have a bit of a breakdown here. So in the top, you'll have, around here, this is where they'll have notifications. So if anyone comments or likes or shares things with them or get notifications from games and things like that, they'll get notified up here. Also, it'll be the same with messages as well. If anyone gets any messages, they'll be notified here. So this really becomes the hub of the individual's experience. There's also the search bar. So if anyone's looking for your organisation, they might type it in the search bar here, and it'll give them results of similar organisations or pages and profiles. On the right, oops, that's not right. That's the left, the other right. So on the left here, if you have any pages or apps or groups, then they'll appear here, and you can have favourites. So if people are part of groups and those groups have notifications, all those details will be here. But this central area is where all the action happens. So this ticks over all the content that people are sharing. So if you're friends with people, all their content that they're putting on Facebook will appear here. Likewise, if people like a page and they're engaged with the page, then those updates will appear in the news feed. So this is really active. So with people who have lots of friends or like lots of pages, all the newsfeed stuff will be updated quite regularly. And then over here on the other side are where all the ads are. So here we go. So all these ads we'll look at in a future webinar in terms of how not-for-profits can make use of this space here. But today we're just going to be focusing on the basics. There's also another section that sometimes appears on the far right here, which is a news ticker, which gives even more up-to-date items that are happening on Facebook. So that's a really quick look at the Facebook news feed. So just be aware that that's what people are going to be seeing when they're on Facebook, and that's where your not-for-profit wants to be seen. And so there's going to be a lot of competition, and because the space is limited, so it's really important that that you work out the best way to be seen on that news feed. And there are a few different options. So the three main ways that people use Facebook are either as a personal profile, as a group, or as a page. So the common mistake for a lot of businesses and organisations is that they'll set up a personal profile just because it's the easiest way to start on Facebook. Unfortunately, using Facebook as a business but setting up a personal profile for that business is actually against their rules, and so there is a high risk that that you'll actually have your account deleted, and if it gets deleted then you'll lose all your contacts and your photos and your information and things like that. So it's really important that not-for-profits in particular, businesses, that they don't use a personal profile for their page, and we'll look at how to set up a page in a little while. And if your not-for-profit is using a personal profile as your main presence, there are ways to migrate that to a page, and we'll have an article on that in our Learning Centre this week about how to migrate. There are a few steps that you need to take to do that. So don't panic. We'll have information on how to switch that over. So the big decision will come down to whether you use Facebook as a page or use Facebook or set up a group in Facebook. Best practices, I would start with a Facebook page. For most brands, for most businesses, not-for-profits, this is the best starting point. You get a lot of great benefits from starting up a page, such as analytics in their Facebook Insights, and that's the stuff that you want to look at when you're measuring how well your Facebook page is performing. You'll be able to see all sorts of statistics that you don't get with groups and with personal profiles. You don't get that either. You can also include advertising. You can customize your Facebook page, and you get better reach, and it appears in that news feed as your page as well. The other option is to start up a Facebook group, and in most cases the Facebook group is only used for small sort of niche communities. So you'll have a group, for example, for Australian not-for-profit comms people. So if you search that in Facebook, you'll come up with a group, and that group's full of people who work in comms and marketing in Australian not-for-profits. And so it's those sort of smaller communities where you want that personal interaction with a small group. You have to interact in those groups with a personal profile, though. You can't interact in those groups as a page. Groups can be open or they can be closed. They can even be private as well. So if you want to keep your group's discussion private to the rest of the world, you can pop it in a private group. And you can also receive notifications for when people post in your group, so that's really handy. Also, if you're friends with someone and they're in the group and they post in the group, then that sometimes appears in your news feed as well, which is handy. But today we're really going to focus on setting up that Facebook page. Okay, before we jump into setting up a Facebook page, I really want to emphasize that before you get into Facebook, it's really important that you have a strategy behind you and that you've set some goals about why you want to use Facebook, and not just using it because it seems like the next best thing, or because everyone else is using it, but to have a really good idea of what you want to achieve and how it's actually going to be used to meet the needs of your organization, whether that's communicating with a new group of people, or getting your information out there better, or advocacy. It's really important that you set some parameters about why you want to use Facebook. So if you've got all that stuff down, if you've got an idea of why you want to use Facebook, and it's ready to and you're ready to set up your page, here's some tips on that. So today we're going to look at setting up your Facebook page with a business account. Now, the business account is a special account within Facebook that you can use to set up pages and set up ads without having the personal interaction with it. And it's really handy if your not-for-profit wants to set up a central account to manage the Facebook page that other staff members can access, and you don't want to attach your page to their personal profiles. But we'll look at that in a little bit. We'll also look at some of the pros and cons of using a business account. We'll look at how to set up a vanity URL, and also adding and removing page admins so you can let other people post to your page. Also, I was just going to say, if there are any questions, we might leave most of them to the end, but I might field one or two now. If anyone wanted to ask questions about the profiles, switching the profiles to the page.
Yes, if you just have any questions, please just send them through on the question or chat box that you have. At the moment, we don't have any questions just yet, but we'll give you a few seconds to try to send them through. If there's anything you'd like to ask after what Ben has explained so far, if there's anything that's not quite clear or would like to have more information about. Seems like you're doing a good job, Ben, because there's none. Oh, hang on. David Roberts is asking, what about privacy?
Okay, privacy in general for Facebook. There are lots of ways that you can lock down your personal profiles, but as I was saying, if you're using this as a brand or as a not-for-profit, the best bet is to use a page to interact. Unfortunately, that also means that all the posts, well, the majority of the posts that you post as your page will be public. So you won't want to post, I guess, discussions there about, say, clients or anything like that, pages are designed to be publicly accessible. If you want to have more private chats with a small group of people, then you can use the groups. But just be aware that while it's private to, private to most Facebook users, unless they're part of the group, it's still Facebook's platform. So they may leverage some of the content maybe for ads, but I haven't seen an in-depth look at their stance on how they use private group information. If you do want to use a private group, just double-check that your settings are correct and that you don't that it's not just a closed group, because a closed group can still be seen, but people can't add themselves. So if you want to have private discussions, make sure it's in a private account. Also, if people want to message your organisation, they can actually do that from your Facebook page as well. So you can have a bit of a one-on-one discussion with people through the messaging system through your page as well if people want to contact you directly. But again, you're using Facebook's platform, so it's still up to Facebook in terms of how they use that information themselves.
Great, thanks Ben. We do have a few more here. Rick is asking, how do you migrate a personal account already set up for their organization to a business account?
Yep, sure. There's a few processes that you need to go through with that. There is an article on Facebook's Help and Support Centre, but I'll put together an article about that sometime this week. Basically, you just click a link and it'll migrate your information. However, the only content that it keeps your friends. They then become people who like your page, and your username or your vanity URL. Everything else gets lost. So you have to back up all your information first. Take a few more steps, like if you're an admin to a page or if you're an admin to a group, to assign other admins. But then after you've done all that, you can migrate over. And it's fairly seamless, but again, there's a few precautions that you want to take, and we'll put that together in an article for you.
Right, the next question we have is from Nisha. She's asking hang on a second, sorry. How can we send messages to people from the business account?
Sure. From a business account, you can't interact individually with people. From a Facebook page, you can't interact directly with people, or you can't initiate the conversation, sorry. If they message you, then you can have a conversation with them using the private messages, but you can't actually go out and start chatting with people.
Another question here, which is a good one from Antonino. Is there a way to moderate our approved comments on our page before they appear on our timeline or status and updates and all that?
Yeah, there is a setting in the Facebook page where you can change whether comments and posts are moderated or not.
Just two more questions before we continue. How do we manage our liability in a Facebook group during after hours? For example, if we had a client Facebook group and a client was picking on another client after business hours, how can you manage that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it goes for Facebook pages as well. Like, what happens if people, post nasty comments on your Facebook page and you're asleep? Some pages and groups will set up community guidelines, and while they're not really legally binding, they're just a way to inform people about your activity on Facebook. So some community guidelines might say that that we don't have admins active, after hours, and they may, for example, give a link to another organisation that might be able to help. So, for example, I think Headspace Australia does a really nice set of community guidelines. But again, when it comes to liability, it's a bit of a tricky one. I guess with a group, it's really a collection of individuals. So unless you're branding that as your organization's group, then it's best to yeah, I was going to say it's probably best not to use that as the core place for conversation if you are concerned about legal liability. You may want to look at maybe creating a forum on your website, something that you can control a little bit better, that's something that you can maybe close down after hours when you're not active. Outside of that, yeah, there's a few issues with Facebook's, there have been some legal issues recently about the Facebook page where people post comments on a Facebook page, and if they're incorrect or if they're slanderous, then the Facebook page owner can be deemed responsible for those. There's a little bit of a legal issue, I guess, discussion around how that's going to actually play out. We haven't seen any real practicalities in that, so it's one that we're all sort of watching and keeping an eye on.
Great. Ben, you mentioned before about the moderating posts and comments. Can you kind of tell us where and how to do it? Like, where can you find how to moderate those posts?
Yep. So we'll have a look at the admin settings in a little while. We'll also where we go for the admin settings will be where you can moderate your posts, but we're not going to have an in-depth look at those, but I'll show you where to go to get all your admin details. Now, just be aware that this is for a Facebook page, and you can't moderate, for example, if you're set up as a profile. So make sure that these are for pages and not profiles.
One last one before we continue, if that's okay. Sharon asking, they're rebranding and launching under a new name, so can they delete an old account? I believe it should be.
Yeah, sure. You can delete an old account. You can delete a page if you want, and you can do that through the admin settings as well. Another option you might want to look at is actually applying to change your the name of the page if you want to. You can do that again through your admin settings. You can request a name change. That way you won't lose all your data, for example. But yeah, you can delete pages. That's pretty easy to do. Okay, we'll keep moving with the business account. So I really want to step you through this so that it's clear how to set this up. It's one of the big questions that we get about, you know, what happens if someone in our organisation sets up a page under their personal profile? Can we somehow have a central account that manages the page? Or we want to set up a page but we don't want to use, say, the CEO's Facebook page, personal profile to set it up. So this is how we do it. We're going to step you through. So first up, it's important that you log out of Facebook and go to the Facebook homepage, and down the bottom you'll see a little link to create a page or create an advert. When you click that, you'll go through to the next page where you'll be asked to choose what sort of page you want to set up. For a not-for-profit, cause or community is the best option. So you simply click that and add the name of the page that you want. If you see the top right-hand corners, we're not actually logged in yet. So we're doing this without creating an account or being logged into Facebook at all just yet. The next page you'll see is where we actually go to create a Facebook account. Now, it's not asking for a name just yet, just an email and a password and the date of birth, and also the sort of the captcha code here to make sure that you're a real person. And once you fill out the details here, it'll ask you to sign up for an account, and you'll get an email to verify this. So once you've filled this out, it's pretty straightforward. You won't be setting up a personal account. There is a link here. It's probably a bit small to see, but it says I already have a Facebook account, and that's for if you want to create a page with a personal account. But going through this process, we've set up a business account. Okay, so once you've verified the business account, it'll take you through the stages of setting up your business page. So I've just put in a Facebook page here called NFPs Rock, and it'll ask you for a profile picture. So it's really handy to have a square version of your logo or a square version of a picture that represents your organization really well. If you can have that handy, you can upload that straight away and jump to the next step. And already you will see that on the left here, you will see that the page is already set up. So you've got your profile picture, you've got your sort of description about what your organization does, and you can enter that later on, and you can start posting as well. But this top section here is where all the fun stuff with pages happens. It's the admin panel, and that'll give you all your notifications, all your statistics. Every day there's a different tip here on how to use your page, and also that messaging system as well. So you can turn the option for people to be able to message your page on, and when they do, it'll appear up on the right hand corner here. So this is all the great stuff that you get with having a Facebook page. The next step I'd recommend would be uploading a cover photo. So you can see here on the right, I've added a cover photo. That could be any image you want. There are a few restrictions around the cover photo, but again, you can find information about that in our Learning Centre, just in terms of what you can and can't put in the photo here. So that's basically the Facebook page set up and ready to go. The next step would be adding a username. So a username basically gives you a better URL to send people to. So normally, if you didn't have a username or a vanity URL, this would be a lot longer, this URL here. But at the moment, because I've chosen NFPs Rock, it'll go to www.facebook.com/NFPsRock. It's a lot easier to add to any other content that you might be putting in. It's really important that you pick a good username as well, because after you use Facebook for a while and you get a certain number of fans, this will be locked in and you won't be able to change this. In the early days of your Facebook page, you can change this a few times, but it's best to aim for something that's fairly specific to your organization, that's easy to remember and easy to share with other people. Okay, we're going to have a quick look at the admin panel, or at the admin settings. And this edit page button here will take you to all the settings where you want to go for, say, your moderation of comments and posts and things like that, as well as how to delete your account. So let's have a quick look at that. Okay, the big one today that I want to look at is just admin roles. Sorry, it's a bit small there, but you can add different people to administer your page. So for example, I've used a business account here to set the page up, but then I've also added my personal account to become an administrator. I could also add anyone else that I wanted to be an admin of this page. And there are a few different admin levels. So a manager can post and edit and make changes to the admin settings, and there's a few other options such as like a curator or a commenter who can manage comments, and there are a few different levels. So depending on how you want people or your staff, for example, to use the page, then you can give them different access levels. What's handy then is that you could keep the main account as the admin, and you can add other accounts just to comment or to post to the page or answer messages, or even just look at your statistics. So if you even had another organization or another business who looked after your Facebook page, you can give them access just to make ads or just to make take a look at your admin settings. Okay. On the left here, you'll also see other options. So you'll be able to look at how you can manage your permissions and things like that as well. And the details for the page. So in these other options on the left here, you'll be able to get to those other abilities, so other options like moderating comments and who can post on your page and things like that. Okay, now these security settings are specific for business accounts. So if you have a business account for your organization and you've handed out the email and the password to staff members, you can also track who logs in to that account. So you can get a notification to that email address every time someone uses it, so it helps you track who's using the Facebook page. You can add security questions and a few other options as well. But for a lot of organisations that we've spoken to, that idea of getting approval for computers before they log in, or getting that notification when people log in, that's really handy. Okay, so we've got another half hour or so, and I want to make sure we filled plenty of questions at the end as well. So we're just going to look at this next section about how to post to your page, and then we'll pause again for some questions and see how we go from there. So to post to your page, you want to be posting as your page. So when you make a post, it says, in this case, NFP's Rock posted this comment or posted this photo. It's important that you have your voice right. So the voice of the Facebook page is how you're interacting on that page. So at the moment, if I make a post or a comment or like something on the page, it will say that Not-for-Profits Rock did this. If I click this button that said change to Bentio, whenever I comment or like, it'll be me. It'll appear with my photo, my personal profile, interacting with that. That's handy because if you post to your page as the page, so you create if I created a post saying NFP's Rock just posted this photo, I can then switch to my personal account and like that photo, or comment on that photo, or tag other people that I know personally in that photo. So that adds that sort of two-level way of interacting on your Facebook page, which is pretty handy. The more people that like your content and comment on your content, the more likely it's going to appear in people's news feeds. So some people even recommend asking your staff members if they feel comfortable to like and comment on Facebook posts, just to give it that extra likelihood of appearing in other people's news feeds. Alright, so there are 6 different types of posts that you can make. The basic one is the status update, where it's just some text. You might add a link in there, and that'll include a link preview. That's really handy if you've got blog posts or articles on your website that you want to link to quickly, or just ask questions or things like that on your Facebook page. That's really your basic Facebook post. Other options, you can post photos, videos. The offer is handy if you have something that, if you have a discount on a product, for example, you might want to offer a Facebook-only special on that, and you can do that through the offer. Most of the time that applies mainly to businesses, but if you're creative, you might think of something that you want to add to that. You can create events and milestones, and you can also add questions. So all of those are pretty straightforward. The questions are handy if you have, I guess, multiple options. So, for example, we might do a call out for people to vote for their favourite location for our next workshop, and we might put that on Facebook, and we can give them options that people can vote on those. But milestones are interesting, and we'll get to those in a little bit. But first I want to look at some of the cool things you can do with your timeline. Your timeline is basically your personal, your organization's profile on Facebook. It's very similar to an individual's personal profile, but you can do a few other extra things to it. So the first one I want to look at is one of my favorites. It's called the pinned post. Whenever you make a post, you can have the option to pin that post to the top of your timeline. So that'll stay at the top of your timeline for 7 days. What's handy about that is if you have an event coming up or if there's something that you want to highlight in particular, you can pin that to the top of your post and top of your page, and whenever anybody comes to your page, they'll see that first. I usually recommend posting something very engaging at the top, so something that you think people will like or share or comment on, post that to the top of your, or pin that to the top of your page. What's really important is as soon as you get someone who visits your page, you want them to interact with it as easily as possible. And once they're interacting more with your page, the more likely your posts are going to appear in their news feed. So trying to capture that engagement early on is really important. So having something at the top of your page that's engaging can really help with that. You can also highlight posts on your page. So if there's something important like a photo or maybe a photo album or a special announcement, then you can highlight that on your timeline, and that'll span the whole timeline. So it'll take up both columns, and it'll be nice and bold so that when people are scrolling through your timeline, they'll be able to see that and it really stands out. Yeah, there's a few different ways you can use this, but it's very similar to milestones as well. So milestones are a way to backdate or add key moments to your organization, and you can post milestones all the way back to when your organization was founded. So in the settings, you can change when your organization was founded, and then you can add milestones all the way back to that date. So for example, I think ours connecting up, we've gone back to 1981, and so you can actually create a milestone and date it all the way back to 1981. So if you launch new programs, if something significant happened, you can add that. You can add photos and a description to it. It's a really nice way to tell the story of your organization. So the timeline isn't just a way to post updates. It's also a way to tell your organization's stories. There's some really good examples out there. For example, World Vision Australia have some really great posts that date way back. Also, there are a few libraries out there doing the same thing, and it's really cool to see the history of an organisation, and people get a better feel of what your organisation's about as well, and sort of the change that you're working towards. Another cool option is that you can actually use Facebook as your page and start liking other pages. You can comment on other pages' posts as your page. So if you went to, if you're using Facebook under your personal profile, in the top right-hand corner there's a little settings icon, and you can change who you use your Facebook page as. So in this example, I've chosen Not for Profits Rock, and so once I do that, I'll essentially be using Facebook as Not for Profits Rock. So if I went to the Connecting Up Facebook page after selecting this, every time I comment on the Connecting Up page, it'll say Not for Profits Rock commented or Not for Profits Rock liked this post. It's a nice way to get extra visibility for your page. So for example, if there's another page that you know that your community uses a lot, and you want to be seen on that page, you can post on that page, or you can comment on that page for other people to see. It's also handy if you want to engage with the page, if you want to grab the attention of another organisation, for example, or maybe the ACNC, you want to go on their page and just raise awareness for what your organisation is doing. You can jump on there and be visible by them too. You can also do the same thing from your page's admin panel. So if you went to your page, you can say use Facebook as Not for Profits Rock in this example. Okay, that's just a breakdown again of what we were saying. You can like and comment and share as your page, and it's really handy. Okay, so there are other admin settings that we've already mentioned. But again, we'll run through these in the intermediate Facebook webinar, and we'll also have articles on our Learning Centre about this. So I might just pause here for now as time's running short and see if there are any other questions.
Yes, Tim would like to know if we can go back one step, and Ben has done a great job in going through the step-by-step process and setting up a page and the different posts that you can put up and the different admin settings, etc. But some people are probably still interested in knowing what's the pros and cons of using Facebook. For example, Tim's organization has two functions, advocacy and capacity building for member organizations. So how can Facebook help them, and how much time and effort will it need to keep it up to date and useful? So those are probably, before you even set it up, what are these considerations that need to be taken into account?
Great. So questions about strategy, I guess. Facebook's really flexible in how you use it. And it was getting back to what I was saying about making sure you've got those goals that you can measure. There are a lot of organisations using it differently. So at our social media forums recently, we heard about advocacy groups using it to rally people around a cause. So if you want your page to become, say, like a page for thought leadership for people to come to get more information about a certain topic, you can do that. You can also use it as, I guess, a platform to run competitions as well if you want to do a bit more community engagement. Yeah, it's really up to you in terms of what you want to achieve out of Facebook, and there are some really good examples out there about how different organisations are using it. One of the biggest ways right now is just having a public face, and it really is that raising awareness of your organisation, and even tapping into different demographics that you might not normally be connected with. One benefit that I really see is creating what I call shareable content. So if you're creating content on your website, like videos or articles, or running events, and you're taking heaps of photos, and you're creating ways to help people relate to your organisation better, then Facebook's a really good way to get that message out. So the power of Facebook will really be about how the individuals share your content from your Facebook page. So if you I think that there's been a bit of a push to use Facebook just as a way of marketing. You just post things. But if you can think about how do you create content that other people will want to share, that's where the power comes into it. So if they're sharing really good information about your organisation, about the cause that you're for, or the work that you're doing, and they're sharing it on their personal profiles to all their friends, that's really where you start to leverage social media. So again, that's going to apply to a lot of different cases. Yeah, it will come down to a case-by-case situation with that. Sorry, Christian, what was the other part of that question, the second part?
So basically it has two parts of the organization, like the advocacy and capacity building, and just wanting to know, I guess, some people do question if they have different functions, should you just have one page, should you have a different page, and the question about having it updated regularly and how to make the most out of it.
Yeah, right. So you can have multiple pages. We've got a page for our main Connecting Up organisation, and the focus of that is mainly information sharing and having a bit of a community focus. So we'll highlight community champions, we'll put some nice quotes and stuff, and it's a little bit fun, a little bit casual. And then our donations and discounts program has its own page under the old name Donatech, and that the target for that is, I guess, it's for someone who's a little bit more techie. And so the information there is mainly about donations and discounts, new partners, product updates, information on how to use the products better. So it serves a separate purpose. So there is an option to set up multiple pages for, I guess, different programs if you want. And the way that you can tie those together are by, I guess, branding. You can also have information in the About section about where the program's based. You can also cross-link. So I might share something on the Connecting Up page, which might be relevant for the donations and discounts audience, and I'll share the Connecting Up content on the donations and discounts page. And that will also, when I share it onto the donations and discounts page, it will also reference the main Connecting Up page. So there's a little, I guess, tips and tricks that you can do with that if you have multiple pages to make sure that people are aware that there's some sort of connection between your pages. I think Acon Health have done some trials with that, and different groups will also set up pages for specific campaigns as well. But again, there are ways to make sure that people who are visiting different pages know what's going on and how different pages are connected. In terms of time commitment, again, it'll come down to what you want to achieve and what resources you have. And that's a big question, because Facebook essentially is free. Like, a lot of social media is free to use, but when it comes down to resourcing, that's where the real cost comes in. If you use some of, I guess, some of the sort of efficiency tips like auto scheduling and using content calendars and things of that nature, you can almost get away with social media using half an hour a day. But with social media, you'll get as much as you put into it. So if you have more resourcing available, more people who are trained, the better, especially when it comes to responding to comments or getting an idea of the vibe of what's happening on social media and keeping up to date with what's going on. But yeah, if you don't have that resourcing, if you're not sure that you've got the training in place or the experience, then I guess my message would be, don't stress and don't think that you have to be on Facebook or you're going to be left behind, because we've talked to organisations and they, for example, might move to online marketing and do e-newsletters, but their community all really like printed leaflets and printed newsletters, and so for them, social media, for example, might not be the best place. But yeah, we're sort of getting on with time, so should we answer a few more questions?
Yep, sure. Can you just explain briefly about vanity URLs? Some people don't quite understand what that term is.
Yeah, sure. So when you create a page or a profile or a presence on Facebook, the URL to send people to that page, so you might put a link on your website, for example, or in your newsletter to come and visit us at Facebook. The default link for that is quite long, and it's full of numbers and letters, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense unless you know how Facebook generates those URLs. The benefit of having a vanity URL or a short URL, well, not really a short URL, a vanity URL or a username, sorry, is that you get a shorter URL that's easier to remember and easier to link people to. So in the example that we used, it was Not-for-Profits Rock or NFPs Rock. So instead of having to send people to www.facebook.com/pages/a log number/something else, we could just send them to facebook.com/NFPsRock. It's handy for any printed material in particular, if you want to put the URL of your organisation on printed material, something that sticks in people's mind. But a lot of people also just search for your organisation as well. It's another thing that you might want to do is, even if you don't want to really have a huge presence on Facebook right now, you could create a page and make it private so people can't see it. But when you do that, you can also create your vanity URL so that no one else can use it later on. So if you want to make sure your username /vanity URL is reserved for your organisation, you can create that page, make it private, and still make sure no one else can use it.
So with that URL, if you've created a page without the URL, can you go back and fix it?
Yes, definitely. That's within the admin settings, or if you go to facebook.com/username, the option will be there. But if you go to the admin settings of your page, then there will be a link there to add a username.
So we talked a little bit about the benefits of having Facebook. Are there any drawbacks or cons? So, I mean, we talked about the pros, and are there any cons of using Facebook?
Yeah, definitely. I think the big one is has already been flagged with that issue of what happens when people post bad things on our Facebook page. Most of the not-for-profits that I've seen, I guess we have the benefit of, I guess in a lot of cases, having really good communities, and we don't see a lot of negative stuff. But it's really important that you have policies in place for when that happens. So it could be someone posts something bad about your organisation, and you might want to have a policy around whether we leave that there and then comment on it. And that can be a really powerful way to actually show that you're active on Facebook, but also to show that you're listening to what people are saying, is actually respond, and in a lot of circumstances you can actually turn that person around and actually help them become an advocate for your organisation once you clarify some of the points. But yeah, that's probably the biggest con is just the risk of being public. So you want to make sure that that you have the staff on board who can respond in a timely manner to those posts. I guess the other con again is making sure that it's updated fairly regularly. I think sometimes it can be a bit damaging if you have a Facebook page that hasn't been updated for like 6 months. If you're going to be present, be present. If you're going to set a page up, make sure you're using it. Even if it's only one post a week or one post every few days, that's better than nothing. A lot of, I guess the ideal would be to post once or twice a day, but yeah, if you only post once every few days, that's okay as well. The other con is if you don't have buy-in from the organisation or from decision makers and stakeholders who are involved with, I guess, the Facebook presence, if you don't have buy-in from them, and there could be internal issues in terms of people questioning what the value is, and that's the same with setting those goals. You want to make sure that you're trying to achieve something specific when you're on Facebook, or have 2 or 3 goals that you're working towards rather than just having a Facebook page for the sake of a Facebook page, and that's really important as well.
Great. Since we are running out of time, I think you still have a few slides going. I might just let you go through those last few slides, and you mentioned the hidden some tips for Facebook, and then we'll, I mean, just so that we can finish on time and then continue on questions if people would like to stay a bit further.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll just run through these really quickly. Again, most of these hints and tips are on our Learning Centre on our website. But again, we'll hang around a bit longer after the 1 hour is up to answer some more questions. So let's have a quick flick through these slides. So one of the big things these days is actually using images for your posts. So images are really engaging, and people are more likely to share them and more likely to click like or comment on them. And they also take a lot more take up a lot more real estate on the news feed, so they're a lot more in your face, a lot more, yeah, I guess a lot more visible. So the more images you can use, the better. If you're using images, I'd aim for maybe one a day. If you post any more than one a day, sometimes it collates them into like a summary post, and it might not be laid out the best way. There are ways around that, but it involves albums and things like that. So if you're doing like a daily post, then an image is really handy. Another way that you can use images is to add a link within that image, so in the image description. So if people click on the image, they'll also see maybe a link to your website, so it's a nice call to action to include with the images. So here we've given an example of that. Another option that we've already gone through is to to like and share as your page. So I've just done a screen grab here of one of the posts. You can see that Women's and Children's Hospital Foundation have liked this post, and you can see a couple of other pages there that have liked the post as well. So that's what it looks like when you're interacting on Facebook as your page. And also on the left here you can see the response when I've commented as connecting up. Okay, another cool feature, if you want to, I guess, give more value to your Facebook page, so you want it to be a place where people come to, you can create unique opportunities for your fans. So Monopoly, for example, ran a competition where you had to vote for your favourite Monopoly piece, and the Monopoly piece that had the least amount of votes was actually going to be removed from Monopoly altogether, and you could then vote for a new token. So there was like a robot and and I think maybe a donut or something, and you could vote for your favorite token and that would replace it. But that was all done within Facebook. So it meant that people came to Facebook and to the Monopoly Facebook page specifically for that content. So it's a nice way to add value to your presence. So you're not just replicating what's on your website, or you're not just replicating what's in other parts of your online presence, so for your e-newsletter, for example, as well. Some pages I know will give their fans sneak peeks at what's coming up next, and also that'll be the place where they share photos from their events. So it encourages people to use their Facebook page more and to tag friends and comment, and it's a nice way to engage a bit more too. Another really important way to get more people onto your Facebook page is actually to promote it in other parts of your online presence. So you can promote it on your website, you can promote it in your newsletters, you can even promote it through Twitter. So what I'm saying here is don't cross-post, so don't automatically post whatever you do on Facebook onto your Twitter account. But in the example of the Monopoly competition, for example, you could promote on Twitter that there's a competition running, and to see the competition jump over to the Facebook page. And that's a nice way to cross-promote across social networks. And you could do the same with Twitter. So if you ran a tweet chat, for example, or there was some interesting comments that were coming through on your Twitter feed, you could post on Facebook saying, hey, why don't you jump over to Twitter and have a look what's happening over there as well. Okay, so those are just a few tips. There are plenty more over in our Learning Centre. So if you go to connectingup.org/learn, you'll find some of the social media tips. And there are some basic tips for starting out and creating new accounts, but there are also some more advanced tips on how to do some image editing and optimising your images there as well. So yeah. So we'll come back to the questions in a little while, but I might just hand over to Christine to chat about our upcoming webinars.
Yeah, sure. So first up, I'm just going to talk really quickly about the intermediate Facebook webinars. So this year we'll be running a series of Facebook webinars because we understand that's what a lot of people are keen into and would like to know more about. So we've done the introduction today about setting up and the basic admin and posts, etc. On the 15th of March we will be running 2 sessions on intermediate Facebook, and that will look at a range of things from how to create a Facebook content strategy, what you can do to increase likes to your page, how to encourage your fans to engage with your content, and that can be through different types of posts, polls, etc., and also how to integrate Facebook with your website and other communication channel. So it will look a little bit more. It will look at more on the marketing side of things and leveraging Facebook to the maximum use that you can. Following that, we will go into advanced Facebook webinar, which will be in May. We haven't set a date yet, but the advanced Facebook will look at more on Facebook ads, insights and analytics and things like that. So it will be more in depth into how you can see the types of engagement, how you can improve based on those data and analysis. So those are the 2 Facebook webinars coming up. We also do have a range of upcoming webinars in February on online fundraising. So the 6th of February there'll be crowdfunding for social good, and the 12th is using social media for fundraising, so how you can incorporate social media into your fundraising strategy. And also on the 21st February is online fundraising and e-newsletter, so looking at different tools and how you can use e-newsletter to maximize your online fundraising. And one that has just been confirmed today, so it's not on the slide, is on the 28th, I believe, is about looking at the 6 great online fundraising ideas. So those are just a few that are coming up. We do have weekly webinars for the rest of the year, hopefully. But if you would like more information on any of these, please go to our website, connectingup.org/events. So that's basically all in terms of the upcoming events. So as I mentioned, I understand that we have reached the end time for the webinar session. However, Ben is happy to stay back a little bit to answer some of the other questions that you have. So feel free to stay along if you want to, but if not, thank you for joining, and I hope we'll see you again in the next webinar. So Ben, just a quick question on photos, because you mentioned about posting images and photos as part of content. Is there a particular size that you need to look at to post it, photo size wise?
Oop, there we go. Sorry, I had myself on mute. If you want to post photos, I would aim for like a medium size. So in terms of pixels, something around like 800 pixels plus in terms of width. But there are specific dimensions for your profile picture, for example, and also specific dimensions for the cover photo. I would recommend, actually what I might do is see if I can jump over to the Connecting Up website, Facebook page, and show you some examples. Because what we want to do is maximize the size of the photos that you're using. So if you post a square photo, all right, let's go to Connecting Up. It'll appear in your timeline quite nicely. Okay. Alright, so this is a bit of a funny video. I just did a screen grab here. So you can see that the photo doesn't quite fit, and it's a little bit cropped on the side here, so the words don't quite fit in there. It looks square here on the timeline, but when it came up in people's newsfeed, it was the full photo. So if you're posting a photo and thinking about your timeline, a square photo like this, around the 400 by 400 pixel size or bigger is good. If you wanted to highlight a post and actually see that across the whole timeline, if you're thinking about featuring it on the whole timeline, then this dimension here is about, off the top of my head, I think it's about 851 pixels by 403 pixels high. So something widescreen basically will fit nicely in there. So it really depends on what you want to do with the photos, but a standard photo like dimension that you normally get off your digital camera will work fine as well. If you want to look at different sizes of photos that we've used in the past and how we've done that, there is a Learning Center article on dimensions, but if you go to our Facebook page and you go to our albums and then go to our Learning Center, what we've developed here is some cool tricks where a photo like this one, 7 social media habits for the time pressed, if that was on our timeline, you'd see the whole square, but if I highlighted it, you'd only see up to the URL here. So there are some sort of tricks you can do with different photo dimensions, but again, if that's really only if you want to start playing with image editing tools.
Also, for those of you who did question earlier, would like knowing more about newsfeed and timeline, what you saw before in the first page, once we went into connecting up, the ones where we had all the posts and stuff, that's basically what a timeline is. Just because we didn't have a Facebook screen and demo, so that's great. Just going back into some admin rights, Ben, Nisha is asking, she has created multiple logins for different people with different email addresses, but when she added these email addresses as admin managers, nothing happened. So how can you create multiple logins for the other staff members?
Okay, so what I've got here is the admin roles for connecting up. So you can see these top two admin roles these are both business accounts, and you can only create a business, or you can only add a business account to your Facebook page if you've already created an advert, or you've already created a page with those and those exist. Or you can add people who are already on Facebook. If you wanted to, you can add an email address and send that to people, and they'll get an email notification saying that you want to add them to Facebook. They'll either have to sign up for Facebook or use their personal account to do that. So that should be working. If they're not getting that email notification, they may have to check the spam folder. But you can do that. So if I added an email address and hit add, then that would send me an email at that address saying that I want to be an admin of Connecting Up.
I hope that answers your question, Nisha. The next question is, Antonio created an individual profile for the organization to set up the NFP page. Should they change the individual profile to a business page, and will this affect the content on the page that they've already created? I mean, will they lose the likes, the photos, and the content in general?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What I guess the easiest thing to do, I'd probably just make that profile private, and so that no one else can interact with it, and make sure it doesn't come up in any search engines. So you can change that in that profile's settings. Alternatively, what you can also do, and then just keep using that. Alternatively, you can set up like a dummy page and create a business account, like how we showed you in the slideshow. Create a fake page in order to create that business account, and then once that business account's been created, add that business account as an admin to your page. So as we've done here, so we've added so this Facebook at hellobentio.com.au, that's a business account that I created to make a page. You can then add that business account as an admin for your existing page, and then once you've done that, you can remove that. You can delete that profile that you created to make your page. If you delete the profile that you used to create the page, you won't lose anything on the page, but you will lose any friends or any photos that you've posted as that profile. I hope that makes sense. That all the different profile and page thing. You followed what I was saying there.
Just one last question, which is probably slightly a bit more advanced than what we expected, but I will just ask it anyway. It's just about managing Facebook with other social media accounts using Hootsuite. So Sharon's just wondering if using Hootsuite is a good way to manage the account, along with the Twitter account, YouTube, etc.
Yeah, I really like Hootsuite. But you just have to be careful when you're posting to Facebook as Hootsuite and how you do that. I think the temptation with Hootsuite is to create an update and then post the same update to every single social network that you've got connected to it. So for people who don't know what Hootsuite is, it's a program that you can use to manage multiple social media accounts. So you can you can connect to your LinkedIn profiles, Google+, Twitter, Facebook pages, Facebook profiles, Facebook groups, all different things you can connect to Hootsuite, and so you've got all your social media in one place. It's a really great tool, and there's free accounts that you can set up for that. But what I've seen done badly with Hootsuite is when people post to Facebook and to Twitter at the same time, and they may like include the hashtag, for example, on their Facebook page, and that it just doesn't, like, hashtags don't really make sense in Facebook, and so when they've made the same update to both, it doesn't quite get there. With posting to Facebook as well, you've got a lot more characters to play with, so you can put a lot more text in there than you can with Twitter. And so on the other hand, if you post a big update on Hootsuite and you post it to Facebook and then you select to post to Twitter, when it posts to your Twitter account, it'll be shortened and it won't look great. There are ways to use Hootsuite with Facebook really well. Like posting links works really well. You can post a link to Facebook and it will create the Facebook link preview, and then you can delete the URL as well, so it looks really nice in Facebook. And you can post photos to Facebook as well. The only downside is that it creates a Hootsuite album in your Facebook page, but unless people are looking through your albums, they won't actually see that, they'll just see the photo. So the only downside with using Hootsuite is just being aware that you don't want to cross-post every single thing to every single social media account. The other downside is that you can't tag other organisations through Hootsuite either. So if you wanted to tag, say, Connecting Up in your Facebook status update on your page, you can't do that through Hootsuite. That's the other downside.
Thanks, Ben. That was actually the last question. So once again, thank you very much for everyone who has attended and who has participated and asked questions. I hope you have found the webinar very useful and very clear on the step-by-step on how you can set up a page for your own organization. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us for further information. Otherwise, following this webinar, I will be sending you a link to the recording, a copy of the slides, as well as a link to the evaluation form so you can continue to improve for the rest of our events. Thank you and have a good afternoon, and I hope to see you in our next webinars.